The aggressive Jasper Philipsen of the team that promotes hair doping returns to win in the Tour de France 1 year on and celebrates his new contract and new money with a very easy sprint thanks to his gregario, the friend of Dr. Luigi Cecchini. The cyclists take a second rest day, riding for 165 kilometres and almost nodding off in the process. Again, all with the consent of the guy who wants us to erase the channel, Christian Prudhomme. A day of totally absurd relaxation for the leader alien and our beloved Anchovy and the rest of the favourites to win this race racket. And meanwhile, the bullying towards the Anchovy continues, with statements from Poggy insisting that the Dane only has excuses for his nonsense. But it's not just the Tour de France riders who are extremely relaxed. There are other shady characters in the sport, such as Chris Froome, who continue to make fools of themselves wherever they go. The white Kenyan, who did not stop declaring during the year that he wanted to try to win a stage of the Tour, is now making a fool of himself in the Sibiu Tour, a Romanian cycling race that has in its lists of winners such shady characters as the doped Bulgarian Vladimir Koev or the doped deceased after a horrible hit-and-run David Rebellin. There, in Romania, Froome is uncovering the pot of essences that we had already been able to sense with his Tour of Rwanda, 15 minutes behind the winner. His performance in Tirreno Adriatico, where he was ranked 156th, or indeed his 81st out of 94 in the Criterium Dauphiné. The guy who earns more than €5.5 million per year, plus what he continues to earn from sponsorships, shone first in the time trial, finishing 120th, 36 seconds behind the winner, Max Walker, his compatriot from the Astana team. What's that I hear you say? 36 seconds is not too bad. You're right, until you see that the distance of that time trial was 3 kilometres. But the key to observing his excellent performance was in the following stage, finishing at Balea Lac, a Romanian colossus of 23 kilometres at 6% average gradient, and the white Kenyan with the TUE for Bilharzia made one of his best ascents ever. While up front, the Mexican Jonathan Caicedo, former teammate of Andrea Piccolo, was able to crush men who've performed very well recently, such as the anti-Pogacar Lipowitz or Matthew Riccitello, and thus he achieved his 7th win of the year in a team packed with Mexicans and Colombians and various Latin waste from the stable of Jonathan Vaughters. Let's pay attention to this team. Meanwhile, Froome still wanted to give the best of himself in the Carpathians, and so he ended up crossing the finish line with a small group of sprinters, including Giacomo Nizzolo, totally finished since no longer being supervised and managed by our friend of the channel, Bjarne Riis. Or there was the popular Romanian rider, Valentin Plesea, 4 times runner-up in that famous multicultural country. And then specifically our favourite Kenyan came in, more than 24 minutes behind Caicedo, an attitude that has convinced the Canadian, Israeli, Jewish billionaire Sylvan Adams to let his fetish cyclist continue to defend the colours of a country at war for 1 more season. In fact, 37-year-old Spanish cyclist Edgar Nieto of the Victoria Sports Team claimed on the Spanish-language cycling forum Parlamento Ciclista that Froome's performance was Pyrrhic, that despite the fact that he had spent more than 180 kilometres in a breakaway with all that air in his face, he was still pedalling quicker than him in the Fagaras Mountains. A heartbreaking testimony from Nieto, one which makes it clear just what Froome's level is without the supervision and medical treatments of Dr. Freeman and Linders, and without the mechanical help of his superior Pinarello bike. Is this the worst example of decadence in the history of the sport? Oh, dear Kenyan, perhaps you should think about retiring. It's getting rather embarrassing. As for the Tour de France, we had some very interesting news. Primož Roglic's best gregario, the master without a nationality, Alexander Vlasov, abandoned La Grande Boucle due to a hard fall suffered on an earlier stage, one which caused a hard concussion. We can only wish a speedy recovery to this strange rider from all of us at the Cycling Highlights team. Also, there was the Danish sprinter. There's always a Dane in there somewhere. a teammate of the mummy of man, Michael Morkov, who insisted that he was retiring from cycling to, well, who knows what he's going to do. Perhaps he will be a hair model, or perhaps he will appear in the media of his country supporting the anchovy, or perhaps he will train young promises with the secrets that only the legendary Vasilis Anastopoulos has been able to give him. Let's hope that this announcement is the beginning of the mummy's retirement. The attitude of the cyclists during this Tour de France has been rather pitiful on the flat stages. We don't know if it's because they simply are reluctant to beat the speed record that they obviously have in their legs. We don't know if it's some kind of internal protest to reduce the number of days in a Grand Tour of the future. But what we do know is that the pacts which only let continental teams attack, the one that the YouTuber Alex Dowsett told us about in his day, well, they've disappeared in 2024, and now, plainly, there are directly no attacks, only meme movements like the one of the dangerous Kobe Goossens, who would do it simply to pick up the prize for the combative cyclist of the day, or moves by Bini, our Bini, so as not to lose too many points on the green jersey competition. For 165 kilometres, the riders were practically snoozing, going for a ride with just a few short bursts of speed, destroying the spectacle of the flat stages where men like Stefan Kung, Jasper Stuyven or Syncrosfera Campenaerts could put on a little show, but always subject to the beady eye of the mafia in this professional sport. They insult the fans to whom they owe their salary while they laugh and tell jokes in the peloton. And there's been 4 stages of this already in this Tour de France. Surely enough's enough. Maybe Omeri Sports doesn't like that we're criticising this nonsense, and that's why they've already knocked down a video on the channel. Yes, we're reeling from the blow. So we can only ask you to subscribe, because it's free. And if you can, help us with a super thanks or by joining as a member of the channel, which will go a long way to at least make our effort worthwhile. We can also remind you that the sportsmen who don't make even the slightest effort when compared to the laziest cyclists are the billionaire footballers. And we have a channel called Failed Sharks where we will start airing all their dirty laundry if we reach 1,000 subscribers. Go ahead, subscribe now. All done? Good. Back to the Tour. The peloton started working at high speed at last in the last 5 kilometres, and on such a finish the hair-doping men who'd prepared very well during the rest day in Orléans put one of the best gregarios in the world, the grandson and son of dopers, Van der Poel, to work. The world champion went to work for his leader, Jasper Philipsen, the always aggressive Belgian, and he pulled out enough of a lead to win very comfortably over Bini, our Bini. And of course there was not a trace of the mummy of man who, after having fulfilled his record, totally unchained, he doesn't even get into the fight for stage victories, despite his Greek trainer Anastopoulos' request to the contrary. Perhaps it's for the best. He doesn't want to upset the hair-doping team or the one that trains in Eritrea for the Tour. If they do get upset and sing La Traviata, who knows where it will end. Oh well, stop by the video on the screen, that one. Yes, friends, you will love it.